What is going on, everyone? We are here. Another beautiful day outside, enjoying the last bit of summer here. Um, you guys know the drill. Every Sunday, we got a new artist, and I have the lead singer and songwriter from the band Walking Dolls, Jackson Greer. Jackson, what's going on, man? How are you?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
And not too bad. Just enjoying the day, working on some music, doing some interviews.
Very
Appreciate
cool.
you taking the time to come on and actually do this today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate
no,
it.
of course. I'm thrilled. I was checking out some of your stuff the last few weeks while we were trying to schedule the interview and stuff, and I'm definitely a fan.
Cool, cool.
A
Good
lot
to
of
hear
cool
it.
music that you're doing, and I definitely dig it and support it. And I just hope by the end of this, a lot of my fans and stuff check you out as well.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
No, of course. So kind of before we hop into all the questions here, is why don't you just let the people know a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, I'm a singer-songwriter from the LA area. I grew up in Redondo Beach, and I live in San Pedro, which is like the LA harbor now. I've been playing guitar and writing songs since I was like 13 or something. And I'm only now getting getting to releasing my first music. Um, but there's 7 songs on an EP, so I've got plenty and plenty more to come. But yeah, I've just been doing that for years. I've played live a lot, played solo mostly, been in a few bands. But now I'm really getting into what I want to be doing, which is leading like a band and being the singer songwriter type for it.
No, that's awesome, man. And I mean, you're just pursuing your dream, and that's what it's all about. I mean, when I started doing music a few years ago, I didn't think it was going to turn into anything. And then I really started just kind of driving and pushing myself. And
Yeah,
it's something I love to do. And it's just cool to see people really pursuing their dreams and stuff.
you just got to push forward and hope for the best and just keep plugging away.
No, exactly. And I always just say it's a quote that I live by because I'm a big hockey fan. And Wayne Gretzky is just
Mhm.
because if I never did music, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Right.
And if I didn't take the shot in writing music and starting this interview series, I would probably regret it down the road. And now over 20, 25 episodes here, and I'm loving what I'm doing, having a blast, and starting to gain a little traction.
Yeah. Well, it's a really cool thing. I really appreciate you doing it.
No, of course. I'm all about just trying to help up and coming artists and just do what I can. And that kind of leads us into the first question because going through the interview series is what I'm all about is just telling artists' story through music.
Right.
So, with that being said, the first question that I have for you is where did music all start for you? How did you kind of just like get into it? Was it like playing guitar at an early age or like singing or like just how did all that come about?
So, my dad was a musician songwriter in the 70s and 80s. Um, he never got hugely successful, but he led a bunch of bands and he kind of instilled the rock and roll spirit in me, I guess. Um, but I really didn't even think about music until I was like 13 when he sort of forced me to start playing guitar. And so I started and I just fell in love with it. And ever since it's just sort of been the passion and the dream. And yeah, that's pretty much where it started at a, I guess, later age than some, but kind of a late bloomer, but you know.
Yeah, no, totally. I totally get that. Because I only started back in 2018, so that was only a few years ago for me. I'm
Yeah,
24, so I only started when I was about 21.
that's great
Um,
though.
yeah, just getting into the songwriting and stuff like that. A lot of my
Mhm.
fans and friends and family know about the song I wrote about my grandfather. That's how I really started getting into music. And then
Mhm.
obviously last year with COVID and the pandemic and stuff, kind of cooped up in the house and had plenty of time to play around and start
Yeah,
producing and mixing beats and stuff like that, you know?
yeah. The pandemic uh, is it's such a fascinating thing because it ended so many things that people were trying to do, and then it kicked off so many other things in weird ways that you wouldn't have expected. Because I was literally this was going to be uh, really starting as a band. Literally, I was meeting with a drummer the day, like 2 days after the lockdown started, and so I went for months, and I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to record it. I just recorded the EP. So
Yeah, no, it's crazy how that kind of just like stopped things, and like it stopped a lot of things, but then it
Yeah.
also really helped a lot of people. And then especially with like TikTok and stuff like that, a lot more people were able to get their music out there through that platform because that was
Oh
just
yeah.
blowing up during COVID.
I got addicted to TikTok very quickly.
Oh no, trust me, I can get I all of a sudden I'm watching it and then 2 hours, 3 hours go by and I'm like, oh boy.
The
But
endless scroll.
no, exactly. And I mean, I used to do that on Instagram and just stuff like that, but it's just cool how social media can help with that following and just help you create more of a fan base and just get your music out there.
It's not something that you could have done even 15 years ago. So
No, exactly.
it's pretty
Uh,
cool.
no, it really is. And I mean, obviously those are great platforms and ways to get out there and stuff like that. But now the second question I kind of have for you is when it comes down to like inspirations and stuff. So like when you're making music and obviously your passion and love for music is just like who kind of inspires you, whether it's family wise or if it's people in the music industry itself. Like who are some people that you look up to?
Yeah, I was obviously kicked into gear by my dad, but I really got super into. I don't know if you've heard of Neil Finn,
Yep.
Crowded House. If you heard of them,
Yeah.
huge fan of them. I was super into them. I got into Green Day around the American Idiot period. I was a big fan of them.
Mhm.
Actually saw them the other day in
Oh,
concert.
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a really good show. Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys,
Mhm.
huge inspiration. Um, really big fan of Leonard Cohen's really inspiring to me. I don't particularly do like Leonard Cohen like lyrics, but
Yeah.
I've always been super inspired by him. And then just like lately, I've been super excited about like Olivia Rodrigo and the new kind of rock and roll pop stuff that's coming out. It's pretty
Mhm.
exciting.
No, that's awesome. Just because obviously like everyone has those inspirations like when they start getting into music and stuff like that. And I mean a lot of people know from me and my experiences I lean on that early 90s and like late 90s and early
Yeah.
2000s like kind of stuff like and mostly for me it's country but like even like the pop aspect and the rock aspect and just like all of that stuff because
Yeah.
um Chris Daughtry, one of my all-time favorite artists, was kind of really like kicking up around those times and like Nickelback and stuff like rock wise, and then just like
Right.
country like with George Jones, George Strait, Alan
Oh,
Jackson, and
George
like
Jones is the best. Love George
hey, king
Jones.
of country right there. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't beat that, and that's what was always just in my household when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And so it's just really cool to see like who's like what artists have for inspirations like in the music industry today.
Yeah, the 90s are probably my favorite era of music. Um, I'm super into, there were so many different little things coming together in that period. There's grunge, there was kind of the burgeoning pop punk kind of thing.
Mhm.
And then there was more folk oriented Counting Crows type stuff, Wallflowers and Sheryl Crow and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No,
Um,
and it's just cool because that time era too was just all about the songwriting and like the storytelling aspect because
yeah,
and that's what a lot of people don't understand is like a lot of people that like music, they just listen to the music and they just they're like, oh yeah, this is a cool song. But like some like back then, like they just don't understand how good that storytelling actually was, like behind those lyrics, just the story that like you could picture in your head or
right.
just like reading a book and just going like chapter by chapter, just like visualizing that story.
Yeah, yeah,
And obviously, that's where I'm going kind of with my next question is because artists have all different types of creative process. Like for me, when it comes to writing, a lot of my stuff comes from emotions, and I want to get that storytelling out there. I want to paint a picture for the people listening to the songs that I write.
yeah.
And obviously it doesn't matter what genre you're in, every creative process is different. So with that being said, kind of like what is your creative process, because you just came out with the EP, clearly you've written a few songs, like just what is your
Yeah.
process when it comes to that?
Um, well, it all it's all about the moment of inspiration for me. I'm not the type of person who sits down and can just pump out a song a day. Usually, I've had moments like that, but typically it's just when you get that moment of inspiration, a melody or a lyric comes into your head, go down to the piano typically or the guitar and just see where it leads you. I'm super mood oriented, So I try to sit in the mood and feel of the song and just see where that leads me. Lyrics, sounds come into your head, and you just intuitively work from there. For me, it's very much about inspiration and intuition.
Yeah.
Very little actual intellectual thought. Sometimes I won't know what a song's about until like months later.
No, and I totally get that. And I mean, you can probably relate is like you probably have like a lot of notes on your phone or like on a notepad or something and audio files and stuff like that, just from little things that come to you here and there.
Yeah, I have tons of voice memos,
Mhm.
just hundreds and hundreds of voice memos, and then all my songs are pretty much written on loose leaf paper because I like the freedom of the blank space.
No, exactly. And
But
like
yeah,
yeah, I have like notebooks full of that kind of stuff, and I filled up plenty of trash cans with stuff I didn't think was any good.
yeah, yeah.
And to actually quote another artist that was on the Spotlight series is a good friend of mine, Garrett. He said songwriting is it's kind of like a puzzle. Like you gotta you don't know how the pieces are gonna fit, and you just
Right.
like gotta kind of put the pieces together, and eventually you'll have that whole thing mapped out and all the pieces together.
There's something to like finding the things that work the best, like they're out there, and you just have to you kind of have to piece them together yourself because
Exactly.
there's definitely a best way to move forward, at least within your own style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's just so many styles out there, and people are always trying to just like make their own stuff and like be their own person.
Yeah.
Um, and that's just cool because some people do try and copy a lot of other artists because it's just kind of how they create fan bases and stuff like that. And like, I get that, but like at the end of the day, like you got to create your own identity and you got to be your own person and stand out from all these other artists. Cause yeah, I mean, you will get compared to artists, but
Mhm.
you just want to be you. And
Yeah.
that leads me into the next question, which I always tell artists is the hardest question.
Mhm.
And it's hard because some people know who they are, but some people are still trying to figure it out and they're still trying to go down different lanes and stuff like that. And I respect that. But with that being said, is with especially last year, like we said, with the pandemic, and it really created more of a I don't know what I'm trying to say is it really created more of a way for people to get their music out there, like in the music
Mhm.
industry wise. And there's hundreds of artists in every genre up and coming. But at the end of the day, like what would you say makes you you?
Um, I think there's uh when you listen to my stuff, it doesn't necessarily sound like something that is on the radio right now. I'm There's kind of a dearth of melodic rock, and I think that's been true for a very long time now. I think the whole last decade kind of there's a like a handful of bands like Foo Fighters, but they're an old band anyway. The Killers. There's some groups that do it really well. But I think melody is a really strong suit that I have, and that's not something that I think has always been seen as cool, but it's something that I love in music, and so I think melody, intrigue, just kind of surprising things happening, um, catchy and well done, uh, thoughtful songwriting is really I think I have that to provide. So
Yeah. No, and that's awesome. Like you just kind of like know what makes you you and like you just
yeah,
kind of you know what you want to get through your music and like kind of like what you want people to take away from your music as well. Like you just know all
yeah,
like that kind of stuff on the singer songwriter side. And then some people like when I've asked this question numerous times, some people have like their artistry down and like they know like how they want to be like when they're on stage and just stuff like that. And then like
right.
some of them are still trying to figure out like their melody process and like what they want people to take away from their music. So
Right. I've had a
it,
long time to figure it out. But I'm pretty I'm pretty set with I know what I want, which
right.
is not a lot of people necessarily have that. So I'm kind of blessed with that. But at this moment in my life anyway.
No,
Um
and that's awesome.
yeah.
Um, just because like right now with me, like I know who I am. Like I host the interview series, and that's a big
Mhm.
part of what I'm doing. I kind of stepped away from the songwriting a little bit. I've been collabing a little bit here and there with some artists. Shout out to Kevin Lee, Noel, and Kate Reed as well, because I've been doing a little collabs with them. But
Cool.
I've just kind of really been focusing on the interview series. Just trying to do all that, and just kind of that's just who I am at the moment.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's so many different so many different creative outlets within the music realm, and this is a super unique one that you're doing and a really helpful one for artists.
Yeah, no, and like it's just always to me, because the way I grew up, like with um music and stuff like that, is like I always kind of kick myself because I can't sing. If I start singing, glass will start breaking and all that fun stuff. So like it
Nah.
kind of like I still have the passion for that songwriting and producing and stuff, but it's
Mhm.
just to me I can't actually like sing the words. So like if I can go out of my way to help other artists that are actually singers and can make the music come to life, if I can help them and go out of my way to help them and support them and get them some more fans and stuff, then at the end of the day, that's what makes me happy, and that's my goal at the moment.
It's a big unwieldy community of way too many people, but it's weird. You find that especially on like TikTok, people just want to help each other out and pump each other up and advertise for each other, and
No,
it's a great thing that you find these days. So
no, exactly, and I totally get that.
yeah.
And then this kind of leads me into our final question here is just what are your goals? Like whether you have some short term or long term goals. Obviously, you just released the EP, so that must have been definitely a goal for you to get that out there.
Yeah.
But like, what else can we expect from you down the road? And just like, what are your goals?
Well, there's plenty more music where that came from. People would generally advise against doing a 7-song EP because you tend to run out of material that way. But these are songs that have been kicking around for 5 years.
Mhm.
So I have plenty more where those came from. But the intent of this whole thing was for it to be a band thing, and I've got a couple people that are definitely going to be part of it. Um, but the yeah, the intent is to play live, to be bring exciting, fun, uh, good rock music to the people. Um, live is it's a whole different world from the recording world, obviously, and
Exactly.
they both have their uh, they both have their appeal to me, definitely.
Mhm.
And I intend to continue doing both. So
No, that's awesome. And like I said, like I listened to some of your stuff over the last couple of weeks, and I'm a huge fan of a lot of the songs
right.
that you had out on the EP. Um, and I just can't wait to hear more music from you down the
Great.
road, hear you live at some point, and
Yeah.
just, I mean, just keep doing what you're doing. And I just appreciate you taking the time to do this and get your
Oh, it's a
story out
pleasure.
there.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
No, of course. So kind of before we end the interview, obviously you got to play a little music from you.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm gonna play with One More Kiss. Before I kind of play that, if you want to just like tell the people a little bit how that song kind of came about, and then I will play a little bit of that for everyone.
That song, it was inspired by a relationship that I had that was kind of, um, it was sort of falling apart in the end, and it was just kind of, it's kind of a song that centers around loneliness and desperation and that kind of thing. Um, and it's funny because it has kind of a joyful feel to it in some ways, but
Yeah.
yeah, that just kind of the melody kind of popped into my head, and I had the song title, and then just worked from there, and it came out pretty nicely. So
Awesome. And like I said, this is definitely one of my favorite songs that you have out. I will say it is close with Monument. That's definitely one of my other favorite ones
yeah, yeah.
from you. But ladies and gentlemen, let's take a listen to One More Kiss by Walking Dolls. So that is One More Kiss by Walking Dolls. I'm in love with that song. Such a
Great.
jam, like such a jam, like just from the beginning, like the beat and the melody, like already had me head bobbing, and then just the lyrics and vocals behind it is just amazing too. So that's very, very well done.
Thank you so much, man.
No, of
Appreciate
course.
it.
And when listening to that song, kind of going back to like the inspirations and stuff like that, like kind of like the 90s, like 2000s and stuff, like they really like it kind of like hits with me like that, like oldies, like kind of like rock music.
Yeah.
And it just like I don't know, like I just like it reminds me so much of like just like little things here and there from like other like bands and artists and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm not even a little bit trying to hide my influences on this EP. So
No,
I'm happy to just make the music, get it out there. So
No, that's awesome, man. So kind of before I wrap up doing my little thing is where can we find you like on social medias and stuff like that?
um Walking Dolls at Walking Dolls Music on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Um I think it's the same. Yeah, it's the same on all three of those.
Perfect.
That's pretty much my social media setup.
And then as far as music distributing goes, we on Spotify, Apple Music, all that
Everywhere.
fun.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, no,
Yeah, yeah.
so awesome. So everyone, please definitely go check out Walking Dolls. EP is awesome. One More Kiss, great song. Definitely check out Monument too, because I'm a big fan of that one. And Jackson, again, dude, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time to do this.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
No, of course. So, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes another episode of the Interview Spotlight series hosted by yours truly, ACK. Y'all know the drill. Sundays, 1 p.m. Eastern. And I'll see y'all next week. Thanks for tuning in.